Good evening, VV Nation. My name is Ryan, and welcome to the channel. Now, it's Semiconductor Thursday, so you know what we're going to talk about, and that's semiconductors. Now, next Wednesday, big news. Who's excited? We've got Nvidia's earnings. That's right, they're set to report, and everyone is wondering if the Blackwell delay is going to affect their earnings. So tonight's presentation is actually going to be a twofer. I'm going to give you a preview on Nvidia's earnings. We're going to jump into a couple stories talking about the Blackwell chips. In addition to that, we're going to jump into the VectorVest 7 system, analyze Nvidia. But the second part of tonight's video is I'm going to go back to the basics. That's right. If you've been watching these videos, if you've subscribed before, I do this every now and then. That's just, a couple simple tips that you can put on a chart, or just, better understanding how to analyze a stock chart, right? How to be on the right side, how to be profitable. So I'm going to show you 3 things to look at on Nvidia's stock chart, especially if you're completely new to investing or new to stocks. You can utilize this information not only with Nvidia, but use these simple techniques in other stocks or even major indices, just to make sure you're on the right side of the market. So if this is something that you're interested in, stick around and let's get started. This article addresses most of the concerns I just mentioned. Now you can see here with the title, with its Blackwell chips delayed, should investors delay buying Nvidia stock? As we scroll down, the first thing I notice here, or is it now time to buy the leading AI stock? So let's see what happened here. This was a design flaw. That's exactly why the Blackwell B200 is being delayed. Taiwan Semiconductor, or TSM, is the manufacturer here. They utilize this new packaging technology. Essentially has to do with the chip on wafer substrate. So that being said, this is affecting the GPUs. Now, a lot of customers, we got Meta, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon. They got orders worth tens of billions of dollars waiting for these chips. Now, Supermicro does a lot of the packaging for Nvidia, and they're expecting not to see any real volumes from the Blackwell until March quarter. That's right, March of next year. These chips are supposed to be out at the end of this year. So is this really a big problem for Nvidia? Well, it can be if the delay is prolonged more than the 3 or 4 months that a lot of individuals are talking about. Yes, I could see problems, but if it is kept to a short-term delay, that's not that huge of a problem, because right now the Grace Hopper, which is really what lifted Nvidia to stardom in the first place, is filling some of that void resulting from the Blackwell delay. So with that in mind, I don't see this being a huge issue for the earnings call next week. And that leads me to this article. You can see Blackwell delay should not impact near-term results. They're expecting just a 1-quarter delay, however, is not expected to have any impact on near-term results or guidance. Guidance was going to be the big thing that I was going to have on my radar as far as to look out when it comes to the earnings call, and I still will definitely look at them. And this is just an article here, but the consensus right now is that this delay should not cause too many issues for Nvidia in the near term. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you is I was doing some research this morning. I was doing some Google searches, and one of the things I searched here, AMD catching up to Nvidia. The reason why I wanted to search this was potential for AMD to really, utilize this delay when it comes to the Blackwell chip to further their AI dreams. Now, this was the first thing that popped up. AMD agreed to pay $4.9 billion to acquire ZT Systems. I covered this last week, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But if we take a look here, this is AMD's biggest acquisition and aligns with the chip maker's plans to reduce Nvidia's dominant position in AI. And more importantly, ZT Systems specializes in AI data servers, which is exactly why AMD acquired them in the first place, to compete with Nvidia. So that being said, as long as Nvidia, this delay does not prolong and give AMD a chance to at least try to play catch up here, because again, if you ever watch my AMD videos, AMD doesn't have to beat Nvidia. They just have to keep their market share, and whatever they get on top of that is an added bonus. Now here we've got Nvidia's chart. We're in the VectorVest 7 software, and as I was talking about at the beginning of this video, I'm going to show you actually how to read a chart while analyzing Nvidia stock chart. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you've seen this layout before. I try to keep things very simple, because otherwise you're really just trying to convince yourself to do something that you probably shouldn't do in the first place. So there's 3 things. Right now, I've got 2 of them up on the chart. The first item is a simple trend line. If you're not familiar with what a trend line is, essentially in an uptrend, as the candlesticks are moving up, you really just want to draw a line and connect the bottoms of those candlesticks here. You see a perfect line forming here. So just to the adverse effect, when a stock is going down, how do I get a sense of a reversal in trend? Well, you would just draw a freehand line like I'm doing now. At the top of these candlesticks here, you see several touches, 1, 2, and 3. We'll make this a little wider so everyone can see. And you can see price action as it retraced. It found a level of support here. And then here's the downward trend line. So once price action broke above this downward trend line, I would definitely have started putting Nvidia back on my radar to be a bullish position once again. And you can do this not only just on Nvidia, but you can do this on major indexes like the QQQ, SPY, or other stocks. It's a very simple yet effective way just to make sure a stock is trending up. Now, the second item I wanted to go over, if I get rid of these freehand lines, are levels of support and resistance. Now, the VectorVest 7 software, and not only our software, but a lot of other platforms out there do utilize support resistance lines. Well, actually, I would say just about every platform, because it's one of the most basic understandings of trading. And you can see a level of support here, this green line coming in. Our level of resistance right now sits at the current high at $140.76. While again, that support level comes in at 119. You can see I have a red dotted line here as well, because other than just letting, softwares let you know where the support resistance lines are, after some practice, you can make them yourself. Essentially, you just want bottoms of candlesticks to be relatively in the same area as the upper range of candlesticks. So we can see here this red line that I drew. I actually had this line here before I put support resistance lines on. You can see it came right in at that zone as well, 119. You see several touches here from the top of this line, and again, a touch from the bottom of this line, and that's what creates support resistance levels. Now you see the two lines down here? This I utilize as a support zone. Support resistance levels, even though you see a line here, they're more of a zone, like you can see the shaded green area. So this is my zone here. The reason why I made it, if I go back, you see the gap up here? So I did that zone. The bottom of the zone here has several touches. So that's a clear support level for the bottom of that zone. The top of the zone, I put it right at the top of the gap here. And you can see the zone that I had mapped out for quite some time. I had mapped this out as Nvidia was starting to pull back. Price action went right into the zone, filled the gap. So we had a gap fill right at level support here with 3 touches on that line. So no surprise, once price action came in here, we saw the low at $90.69. A lot of investors were probably stopped out at Nvidia at this position, right at this level of support here. Therefore, with the bullish momentum coming in from that day, we see a large bodied candlestick. And then within a few trading sessions later, we are off to the races. So this is a very simple yet effective way, just utilizing support resistance lines. And the first tip, drawing simple trend lines. These are 2 items that every investor should at least know. They're very simple yet effective ways to capture profits in the market. The last item I wanted to show you was moving averages. Me personally, I utilize EMAs. They're exponential moving averages, and essentially they just carry more weight on the most recent data. So that being said, they're a little bit more subject to move to volatility. Now for this one, I have a 20-day EMA, right? So essentially, very easy practice. When you see the candlesticks get above that 20-day EMA, you would be bullish on the position. You'd run up until you get your profits or hit your stop loss, whatever may occur. But once price action gets below that 20-day EMA, we're seeing weakness in the price of those shares. And essentially, we get a clear break to below that moving average. Now, comparing price to a moving average itself is a great way to utilize this information to make sure you are making money. Now, the other way is to utilize 2 different moving averages. So the 20 days is more of an intermediate swing trading example. If I want to be more actively trading, I can just use a 3 and 8 day exponential moving average. As long as the 3-day is above the 8-day, that would give us a bullish inclination to the upside. And if you see the 3-day cross below the 8-day, that's showing weakness in that upside trend. As well, if you want to play to the downside of a stock, as long as that 3-day is below the 8-day exponential moving average, typically it's going to work in your favor. And we can see the 3 is above the 8 right now. So everything is positive when it comes to looking at Nvidia right now. 3 is above the 8. Both of these, along with price action, is above the 20-day exponential moving average. Now that we covered some basic technicals, yet vital information, how to analyze Nvidia's chart, I just want to look at this position from a more fundamental standpoint going into earnings. Now, the first thing I want to look at here is the valuation. We value the stock at $107. I've mentioned it over the last few weeks. If you bought Nvidia when it was undervalued during the dip, not mad at it, right? The thing is, what's going to happen next week when it comes to earnings? That's really going to determine whether or not buying it over the last 2 weeks was a good investment or not. And essentially looking at EPS or earnings per share, this is forecasted data. This is not what they're reporting right now. This is what we expect 12 months out. But look at this. Nice, steady stair-step fashion from the lower left to the upper right. It went from less than $2 to just below $3 at $2.96 right now. So a big jump when it comes to the forecasted earnings per share. And down below, we have RS, or relative safety here. If you're new to the channel, this just looks at the consistency of the company's financials, which includes earnings. This indicator is on a 0 to 2 scale. Above 1 is favorable, below 1 is unfavorable. And I'm going to tell you right now, a rating of 1.47, that's one of the highest in the database. So coming from the VectorVest 7 system, from a fundamental standpoint, Nvidia looks good going into earnings. Now, I hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. I know we covered quite a bit when it comes to Nvidia, basic information, but again, sometimes going back to the basics and not throwing, all these complex indicators on a chart. Again, you're just going to convince yourself to do something you probably shouldn't. But looking at Nvidia from a very simple standpoint, we can see that this stock is still ready to rock and roll. You guys have a great night. And if you're holding Nvidia, good luck next week as we approach their earnings. Take care.
Hey VV Nation, knowledge is power. And I wish that when I started investing in the market that someone would have impressed upon me just how important knowledge is when investing in the stock market. Well, VectorVest is giving you that opportunity to take advantage of world-class information and courses at a reduced price at the end of the summer. Folks, if you go to www.vectorvest.com/sale, you will gain access to some of the best knowledge out there to help you to make better decisions in the stock market. Folks, again, knowledge is power, and this is your opportunity to take your investing to the next level.